guys, I'm eating Grinshpan, OXO Chef in Residence, and today we are making shawarma mushroom tacos that could not be easier, and it's perfect for a weeknight meal that will really allow you to connect with your inner chef. Let's get started. What we're gonna start with is one of my all-time favorite condiments, Garlicky Tahini. So what we're gonna start with is the actual tahini paste, which is essentially just ground sesame seeds. And it has this really earthy, nutty flavor to it. It's very rich and it is incredibly addictive, okay? But it is on that richer side. So the way I lighten it is by adding in some fresh lemon juice. So I'm going to just squeeze the lemon right into the tahini paste, and I'm using OXO's citrus squeezer. And I'm just going to actually grate my garlic directly in there. I'm using kind of a medium-sized garlic, chopping a garlic, cleaning it from the skin, then chopping it. It can get a little messy, obviously. Also pretty sticky, so I find that using the ginger and garlic grater just keeps it a lot cleaner and a lot faster. Don't get too crazy. Just hit it right in there. Season it with a little bit of salt. Okay, and what I'm using here too to actually loosen it up and lighten it is I'm adding in some ice water. I find that when it's really, really cold, it gives it a really smooth texture. That is not what we're looking for. We're looking for a velvety, beautiful sauce that we can just drizzle on top of the mushrooms. So I'm just going to add in a little bit more water. And you'll see, the more water you add, the lighter and looser it gets. Here we go. That looks good to me. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wrap it up, put it in the fridge. Sometimes when you keep it in the fridge, it will kind of get a little thick. You can just loosen it up again with a little bit of water and then it'll be perfect. Okay, so now on to the shawarma mushroom part. We're using oyster mushrooms today. I absolutely love oyster mushrooms, and I have actually seen people use oyster mushrooms kind of as like a vegan version of like carnitas, like a pulled pork. Because you can really like pull it apart and it gives you a very similar texture and definitely look. What I like to do with these is I basically, we brush them clean. You never actually rinse mushrooms under water. That's an absolute no-no. You either brush the dirt off of them or you can use a damp towel to clean them. And then what I like to do is these are very easy to just tear. And just remember when you buy mushrooms, these guys cook down a lot. So it may look like there's a lot of mushrooms going on right now, which there are, but when you cook them, they're going to cook down significantly. So I would highly recommend putting your mushrooms in a big bowl to dress it with the spices, just because I'm gonna be using probably my hands or maybe some tongs to just gently, get those spices through those mushrooms. You really wanna make sure everything's coated. So I'm going to be using a curry powder here. I'm gonna use 2 teaspoons and some cumin. I love the earthiness from cumin. This ingredient I absolutely love, preserved lemon, okay? It's like one of those ingredients where your guests will take a bite of your dish and be like, what is that magic? How did you get that flavor in there? And like, again, it's essentially just a lemon preserved in salt, and you get this insane lemony pop of flavor in anything you put it in. So what I like to do with my preserved lemon is I like to slice it in half, and I only use the rind. So you just have to scoop out the center, and it's preserved in salt, so it's pretty salty. So make sure before you use it that you rinse it under running water. So I'm just gonna now slice the lemons. We're really just trying to finely chop this, because we're gonna toss this all over the mushrooms, and it's gonna bring such a beautiful, lemony, salty, bright bite to your mushrooms. So I'm gonna put this preserved lemon directly into the mushrooms. And then I'm just going to take OXO's ginger and garlic grater, and I'm going to grate my garlic directly into my mushrooms. I have 3 cloves here. And now I'm going to give it a little bit of olive oil love. I'm using OXO's precision pour glass dispenser so I can really control the amount of olive oil I put on my mushrooms. And I'm gonna do around 1/3 of a cup here. You really want those mushrooms to be coated in that beautiful extra virgin olive oil. And it also kind of helps all the other ingredients to really just glide and move around on the mushrooms. When those mushrooms hit that pan, we want it to sizzle and sear. And then I'm gonna season the mushrooms with salt and freshly ground cracked pepper. Okay, so we have some salt here. Beautiful. And cracked black pepper. Gorgeous. I try to be a little gentle here because I don't want to break it up too much. And I just want to really make sure that all of those spices, all that garlic, preserved lemon is really coating the mushrooms. Because that's really, obviously, we're just building flavor here, right? And we want those mushrooms to really pop. Now that the mushrooms are covered in those spices, the preserved lemon, the garlic, I'm going to start cooking them, okay? And the thing about mushrooms is you really don't want to overcrowd your pan because we don't want it to steam. We want it to get crispy and golden. So I'm just gonna turn my heat on. We have some extra virgin olive oil. I'm gonna just put a little bit to kind of get those mushrooms going. The heat is medium-high heat. So I'm just gonna take a handful at a time. Just let it, spread it out a little bit. It smells so good. Ugh. So I have the mushroom sauteing, and as you can see, I just put them down with that extra virgin olive oil. I haven't actually moved them yet, and you can see the edges of the mushrooms are starting to get like bubbly and crispy. That's perfect, that's what we want. This mushroom is the star of the show, so it really has to sing. You see that? Okay, so I'm just going to move these to the side. As you can see, they're golden and crispy. They smell insane. So now I'm gonna make the salsa. It's a fresh pico. I have tomatoes, jalapeno, red onion, fresh lemon juice, season with some salt. Give it a toss, give it a taste, and that's gonna be that lightness that's gonna add to the taco. And this is something that I would definitely recommend to make right before you eat it. Obviously you don't have to, but I find that the longer tomatoes sit, especially with salt, the more water that leaks from them. So I like to do it right before I eat. So I have a pan right here. You can obviously do this directly on the stove, right on top of the fire. And I have these gorgeous fresh corn tortillas. Like, how beautiful are those? But we're gonna put them on the heat and we're gonna just bring them back to life a little bit. Keep it dry, a low heat. And now I have 3 here. I feel like that makes sense for one serving. We're gonna start assembling, which is my favorite part. We have these beautiful warmed mushrooms, okay? You don't wanna like get too crazy with it because when you pick it up, it's just going to be too much for your hands. Like, you don't want it to fall all over the place. So let's just like do around 3, maybe 4. Start with that. And make sure, I like to make sure it kind of like reaches the end. And now I'm going to add over the garlicky tahini that just adds that nuttiness and makes it really feel like you're getting that shawarma, you know, that shawarma flavor. It really kind of seals the deal. And now we're gonna use that fresh salsa. Just make sure you give it a nice toss one more time before you plate. Beautiful, look at those colors. Isn't that gorgeous? Yeah, wow. And now we have some fresh flat leaf parsley. For me, it's just super classic. Like, you always get fresh parsley throughout in your shawarma pita sandwich. And that's it. It could not be easier. It has so much flavor going on. And it's also really impressive. You know, I feel like anyone that comes over and enjoys this is gonna love it. Like, you see, that's like the perfect amount. You don't want it to be like falling all over the place. It's so cool because I'm getting all those flavors that I love in a shawarma pita, but in a corn tortilla. I'm eating Grinshpan, OXO's chef in residence, and I hope that these tacos inspire you and really bring out your inner chef.